The Nova Knicks are complete, sans Jay Wright, of course, as the New York Knickerbockers have forked over a massive haul to land their guy, the guy they believe to be maybe the final piece of their championship puzzle, Mikal Bridges. It happened this morning, trade season, if it wasn't officially here. It's damn sure officially here now. Let's break it down. The trade itself. Simple on the Knicks side. The Knicks get Mikal Bridges from the Nets. The Nets, in return, get Bojan Bogdanovic, 4 unprotected New York Knicks first round picks, 25, 27, 29, and 31. 1 protected first round pick, that being Milwaukee's in 2025, and a first round pick swap in 2028. In some form or fashion, that's basically 6 picks for Mikal Bridges, 4 unprotected, 1 protected, 1 swap. It is a Rudy Gobert-esque haul for, yes, an all-star caliber player. Yes, the guy who completes the, Villanova team resurrected in professional form on the New York Knicks. But man, is it a lot to look at just looking down at the sheet. Let's go side by side, starting with the Knicks, then the Nets, and then the rest of the NBA, where all the impacts lie and how this potentially could shake out for each team. For the Knicks, look, it's a ton, but it's still a home run. Bridges, nor his former and now current teammates again in Brunson, Hart, and DiVincenzo, none of them have been shy about wanting to make this happen. Ever since, Hart was traded there, starting with Brunson 2 years ago, goes there in the offseason. Hart is traded there 2 trade deadlines ago. DiVincenzo then comes last year as well. They were not shy, none of the 4 of them, or really even almost the organizations, and certainly not the fan base, in wanting to make this happen, wanting to put these 4 together in New York. And I won't even say at long last, because it actually really, in the reality of the span of time things move in the NBA, it didn't take that long to make the dream a reality for Mikal Bridges and for the Villanova 4 here. Putting these 4 together is great. I have long been a proponent of college to pro teammates should be used more, should be taken as more of an advantage that I think it is, believing as much as I do in cohesion, in camaraderie, and, just team chemistry and all of that. I love in football, which has started to become a little bit of a trend here the last few years too, of getting the receiver for the QB from their college years. I love in the NBA getting former teammates that have had a lot of success on the same team together again. If they love each other, if they love playing together, if they fit well together, they've had that success. I just love everything about it. So this is in some ways a little bit of a fever dream of mine to see this realized in this much of a fashion. I mean, short of Jay Wright coming out of semi-retirement here and being like, step aside, Tom Thibodeau, you've done a great job. I'm here to win some titles. Maybe he would join the bench. I don't know. None of that matters. What matters is Mikal Bridges is there with Brunson, Hart, and DiVincenzo. And it is a little bit of an if, OG Anunoby, who opted out of his, player option and is now looking to re-sign there, but for a lot of money, and to really put the Knicks in a position where this is the team. If we re-sign you, this is the team. This is the 7 guys we got under contract, or the 7 guys we're going to have. If they can re-sign him at whatever the number ends up being, and they get a 7-man rotation of Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson, that's a fierce team. That, to me, is in the inner circle of contenders in the NBA going into next season, with at least Boston, who we imagine will look pretty much the same from this year, with it maybe a Denver, and pick your one of 7 other potential teams out west. It's a little harder. We're going to need to see what goes down, but the Knicks will be there in that inner circle title contender on paper going into next year, if they now are able to re-sign OG and have that 7-man rotation. It matches up with the best team in the East quite well. That would be Boston, a bunch of wings to guard their 2-headed monster, Jalen and Jason. And, just they've got 3 scores now, which the big problem this year is, as much of a hero as Brunson was, as people got injured, it was just Brunson on offense, and the defense they patched together kept it great. But now you've got three legit scorers, different levels of legit, but legit scorers, or can be a lead scorer on any given night, in Brunson, Randall, and Bridges. And you've got three good situational scorers in Hart, DiVincenzo, and Anunoby, of like any given night, if they get hot from three, or just defenses are, shade into those other three, they can give you 20, they can give you 25. We saw DiVincenzo go into the 30s multiple times in this playoffs. So the scoring issues, adding Bridges and then Randall coming back from injury alongside of Brunson's heroics, looks like the offensive end is going to be quite good to match the already great, now just got somehow better and greater defensive end. And if Tibbs can find it in himself to not run these dudes into the ground during the regular season, which is an if, they're going to be chasing a 1 seed. I think it's very much in play for them. Then I worry that Tibbs chasing that 1 seed is going to be like, yeah, I got this amazing 7-man rotation. They're all playing all the minutes. Mikal Bridges, I heard you've never missed a game since high school. Would you like to try playing 48 minutes a game for 82 games? Like, if he can rein himself in, play some bench guys, except that it might mean instead of a 60-win team, you're a 56-win team. Instead of, winning the 1 seed by 3 or 4 games, you're in a battle and you really have to try the last week of the season. I don't know. If he could just not run them into the ground, and you get this team at full strength with MSG going absolutely bananas, that is something for all the teams to fear next year in the playoffs, at least a little bit. Not fear like, oh my God, they're going to win, they're the favorites, especially if you're Boston, but it makes you a little bit nervous. It's a tough task to go into MSG versus roster and win if they're all healthy and they're all firing on all cylinders. But holy shit, this better work. This is as all in, push the chips into the middle of the table as it gets, because they have no future otherwise. This is the team. Sans maybe a Julius Randle trade, if you were like, okay, we need this to be more than 7 people. Let's trade Randall maybe for 2 bench role guys back. If we can find a trade of that nature that works, sure, that's really the only lever they would have left to pull. Otherwise, that 7-man rotation is the 7 they've got, and they are cash strapped, especially again with this number coming in for OG. And it means that Brunson, who entered God tier New York status in the playoffs and forced, most NBA fans and media to consider him a top 10 player in the league at this point, is going to have to continue to be that, going to have to continue to be all NBA caliber, give them that number 1 option, because Randall and Bridges, especially with Bridges coming in, we saw on the Suns, he was a great, third option. He went to the Nets and we're like, whoa, he can do a little first option stuff here, but really is going to settle into in between there, a second or third option, a really great second or third star on a high caliber team. Randall is in a similar boat. It means Brunson does still need to be that guy, which again, he did it all this postseason against the biggest of odds without half of his teammates next to him. But he is a small guard. It helps to be a small guard surrounded by all those long limbs and a roster full of your best friends completely supporting you. But it is worth mentioning that they were still going to rely on that small guard to be the number 1 guy on the title team. He proved it in spades this year. And if he can do it again with this cast around him, if he can remain that tier 1 guy, I have no doubt that Randall and Bridges, meet the criteria for second and third star on a championship team. Maybe on any given night, they rotate who's that second, who's that third, but they meet the criteria for that. And Hart, DiVincenzo, Anunoby, and Robinson are, high-level starters or role players that you need to fill out a championship roster. Like, that 7 looks like a title team. No holes, some flexibility to move around. Weird to say they're a little on the small side because it's just all these long rangy wings, but with Hartenstein actually probably going out the door because of this trade. Robinson, the only traditional center. Do you go small ball? Do you have to worry depending, a Philly matchup or anything? Is that going to come into fruition? Or maybe if you met Denver in a finals or anything like that? I'm not too worried about that problem. Worry about that in the specific matchup that comes down the line. This looks awesome on paper. Boy, does it actually need to be awesome next year and stay awesome for 3 or 4 years to not end up enduring some big time pain down the road, because this is one playoff letdown next year, or one ill-timed, injury ravaged Tibbs run into the ground ravaged playoffs next year, the year after, away from like, shit, this isn't good enough and the window's closed, and now this is it. This it has to be this team. Next year is, from an age standpoint, they're all in their primes. Next year's as good as the one after, or the one after that. So they've got to get it done. Overall, the grade for the Knicks, I say B+. This is the epitome of, I love it, but I'm terrified. And so I'm too terrified about the all-in nature of it to go into the A range as much as I want to, and as much as I love the teammates back together, the whole thing. So I'm sticking with a B+. On the Nets side of things, it's an unbelievable outcome. I couldn't have asked for a better situation. Like, this is a dream come true for them. This is, in tandem with the trade that we'll just throw in here that they immediately made with Houston to get back their own 25 and 26 picks. This is a Hail Mary answered. It's a reset button pressed, and it's just a fantastic outcome for this organization. They now have 2, possibly 3 first-round picks in next year's loaded draft, including their own, that should, by all indications, be near the absolute tippy top of the lottery odds come next May, because this team is going to be a spectacle to behold, of not very good basketball being played relative to their competition. They can go the rest of this offseason into next year shopping Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Dennis Schroeder, Bojan Bogdanovic on his expiring that they just got back. Those 4 all could get you a little bit more draft compensation, maybe a different young player to put on the roster. All 4 of those I could see being coveted by the right contender team looking to add that last piece sometime either this offseason or next trade deadline. And if they're able to trade any of those guys, which again, all indications are they're going to continue looking. I think Windhorst came out pretty quickly and said, the Nets aren't done trading talent, as he put it. So, these guys are on the table. If they get rid of any or some of those guys, Ben Simmons finally mercifully comes off the books after next season. They could go into next summer. 1 year from today, we could be sitting here looking at damn near the cleanest slate of all time. Because if they trade a few of those guys, Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson are both, have 2 or 3 years left, I think, on their deals respectively. If they could get off of them, then they go into next year with 1 or 2 remaining rookie contracts, and that's it. Like this year's Philadelphia 76ers, where it's like we literally have 3 players under contract. It's that, except their 3 players are all getting paid $2 million a year and literally have the entire cap open to them. 3 picks in a loaded draft class, including what could end up being their own pick, being the top pick in the draft, and a bunch of future assets, and just the cleanest slate of all time to start in the most truly let's rebuild the foundation situation ever. And I just love everything about it. It's an A+. No other team was giving them anywhere near this much draft capital. Every other trade idea for them involved some form of a star player returning, whether he's, Bridges to the Hawks is cool, but like, are you taking Trey or DeJounte back? To the Cavs, but are you taking Garland back? There's some other ideas that were out there for Bridges and teams that would definitely be interested, maybe even like a Pelicans situation, but all of them kind of required, here's a good to great player back. And it would have kept the Nets in that weird, like, we've got one kind of guy plus some nice role players, and we're just kind of mediocre and just missed the play-in and nowhere near the bottom of the, at the top of the draft standings, anything like that. So this is great. True reset press, true blow it up scenario. Love every bit of it. Let Cam Thomas see if he can average 40 points on 40 shots next year. I'm game. I'll tune in for a couple of those. And yeah, the Nets, big win. Ripple effects then for the league. There are a bunch of them, all kind of stemming from one idea, but a bunch of teams that could be impacted by this. Because with this trade, does it solidify the Knicks in other teams' mind? And again, we're going on the assumption of they re-sign OG. Maybe that's announced later today, this weekend, whenever. I guess it can be, because the new rules, they're allowed to announce that and prior to July 1st being their own team member. But if they re-sign them, does this make the Knicks, in other teams' mind, a top-level contender alongside of a Boston and maybe along with a Philadelphia if the assumption out there is, hey, they got 2 all-stars and all this cap room and they're going to be something, whether it's Paul George, whether it's someone else, whether it's a slew of role players, whatever it is, they're going to be pretty good on paper too. Does this now make other teams around the East be like, we've got 3 really strong teams at the top, plus Giannis over there in Milwaukee trying his best to will an aging roster into a formidable contender once again? Would that mean some of the more upstart teams go backwards instead of pressing forwards? Would this be the type of thing that would make, Atlanta as a key one of like, maybe if we're choosing between the blow it up completely or the retool around Trey or DeJounte, maybe this pushes them more. I'm like, we should go the blow it up route. Maybe the Bulls, who made the first move towards tearing it down with the Giddey Caruso trade, maybe they're incentivized to go a little faster in that direction. Maybe the Magic are going to be a little more comfortable with like, hey, yeah, last year it looked great. If the idea of like it's Boston and everyone else, we add a guy, we go overpay for a veteran and let's move all the way up there. Now maybe they're a little bit more comfortable remaining in the let's just let Paolo continue to get better and better. All these young guys get better and let's keep the eye on winning a title 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, not pushing to move up the standings this year. Maybe similar for the Cavs, who are like deciding Garland or Mitchell. Do we trade one of them? Do we keep them both? What do we do with this team? Do we go with the older tandem in Mitchell and Allen? Do we go with the younger tandem in Garland and Mobley? Maybe this pushes them towards, you should go with the younger tandem. You should get Donovan Mitchell out of there. Like this isn't, you're not penetrating now this top 2 to 3 teams in the East. So maybe all these types of teams in the middle, kind of upstart teams, decide long game over short term is, was already incentivized and now is incentivized even further. So I think it's going to have a massive effect on what the rest of the teams do this offseason and going into next season, and who's available, who's not. Free agent signings, again, like if it takes the Magic off the board we're not going to way overpay a vet to come here and give him a 3-year, 4-year deal or something like that. It has a lot of ripple effects. Coming off of a sluggish, boring playoffs, we'll just say it, a boring playoffs. The idea of the Knicks being real contenders and the fun that comes with that, because it was fun this year. Non-New York fans have to admit. It was fun seeing MSG rocking, seeing this lovable Knicks team keep rallying. And while I don't always agree with the, it's better when big brand X is better adages across sports, sometimes I agree with it, sometimes I don't. The Knicks are one of those times I do believe that is true. When the Knicks are better, it is better for the league. They've barely been relevant in my lifetime of caring about the league. Born in 90, wasn't paying attention during their 90s runs. By the time I've seen Linsanity and that one series that Carmelo and co won. And so it's fun to see this city on fire. I can't wait to see how loud that arena is next year. And it really, really puts a jolt in the league to kick off the offseason, get us frothing at the mouth for basketball to start again.